everyone. This is going to be the final exercise that we complete before we begin a final project. What we're going to be doing is we're going to write the word art, A-R-T, in uppercase block letters, and we're going to then use 1-point perspective to make those block letters look three-dimensional. I'm going to ask that you do exactly what I do, in that wherever I put a letter on my page, say it's the bottom left, that's where you should put that same letter. Make sure that your worksheet, your exercise looks exactly like what I am doing. This way, if you run into any trouble or confusion, you can refer to this video as well as my visual. When it's time to work on your actual final project, you will be using your name and you will have the artistic license to put it wherever you'd like on the page and to really get creative with it. But again, for this assignment, copy exactly what I am doing. All right, so I'm going to start off with my ruler, and I'm going to be holding my paper horizontally, so make sure your paper is horizontal, and I'm going to make a line just above the bottom of my paper. So very close to the bottom edge, I'm making a line. It's really important that you make this line very light because it's going to be erased at a later time. Okay, my next line I'm going to make is going to be, I'll say about 2 inches up. So I'm just measuring approximately 2 inches. If you do not have a ruler, just use something with a straight edge and you can just kind of guesstimate about how high 2 inches is. And you will then make another horizontal line. So these are guidelines. This is the bottom guideline. This is the top guideline. Your word art is going to sit on these guidelines. The tops of your letters will touch the top guideline. The bottoms of your letters will touch the bottom guideline. You're going to start by printing the word. Print light because this will be erased. Now right now I'm purposefully making a mistake as I print. I'm making my letters very tight and squeezed together. The reason that we don't want this is because when I want to turn these into block letters, you can see what happens. They kind of overlap each other and bunch up, and it's very confusing. So I'm going to erase that, and I'm going to fix what I just did. So I will start off by simply making my letter A, the spot that I had it, and I'm going to leave a little bit of space, and I'm going to make my letter R with a little gap in between, and my T. Because I'm using uppercase letters, you should be as well. My next step is to turn these into block letters, and I'm going to do that freehand at first. With my A, I'm simply putting an outline around the A, and then erasing what's in the middle. After doing it freehand, I come back with the ruler, and I make it really crisp and clean. With 1-point perspective, every straight line that you make should always be made with a ruler. I know I've been saying that over and over again, but it's really that important. Okay, and for my letter R, same idea. I can use a ruler from the beginning, or I can go over it afterwards. I'm just going to start with the ruler. Now that line was there already. I'm just making it a bit more defined and easier to see. If you find that it's difficult to make block letters, I recommend doing it the way that I did with the A. Do it freehand first and then come back with the ruler. Obviously for curved lines, using a ruler is not an option. Now my block letters are nice and thick. This is important too. It makes it easier for the steps that are going to follow if you start off with letters that are thicker. If your letters are very thin, and I'll show you an example of that with the letter T, if they're very thin, it just becomes very challenging to do this correctly. And there is the inside of my R. Again, any line you make, even if it's tiny, use a ruler. All right, so here's an example of a block letter that would be way too thin. Okay, looks kind of thin and flimsy. It should be thick like these. So I'm going to fix that. As I do, I'm going to show you another common mistake that I see, and that is that on my letter T, right now I'm making it very obvious, but you can see that it looks lopsided. It does not look symmetrical. And I really exaggerated that just to show you. If this happens to one of your letters, you just need to line your ruler up so that those two horizontal lines are right in line with each other. And just like with my other letters, I'm erasing everything inside. Notice how much time I took just creating these block letters. It's important not to rush. If you rush, what ends up happening is you end up spending more time redoing it because it's not done properly. So you're better off taking your time, being patient, and doing things the right way. Okay, so I have my block letters, ART. There's some space in between them. They're not sitting right on top of each other. And now what I can do is place my vanishing point. You're going to place your vanishing point in a very similar spot to where mine is. Again, it should be you should be doing exactly what I'm doing here, as close as possible, just so that you can follow and have my visual in case you have any struggle with this. So I'm putting my vanishing point up in this area right here. So it's up towards the right. So if I find the middle of the paper, I'm going up at an angle, and it's not quite up in the corner. It's just to the right of the letters and up a bit high. Common mistake I see when students make their own vanishing point is they make the vanishing point really, really large. And I'm exaggerating this here. But if I was to start connecting my corners of my letters to this vanishing point, I could easily connect the corner of each letter to all different points and still be touching this. So your vanishing point should be a little tiny pinpoint. Make sure you keep it small. And as you're connecting, make sure you use a ruler. This obviously has to be done in pencil. It should not be done on the computer. And I'm just making sure my vanishing point is lining up and touching I'm touching both my vanishing point and the corner I wish to connect with my ruler each time. When I go to connect this corner right here, what you're going to see is that my ruler is crossing through my letter A. So here's what I do. I connect the corner and I stop when I hit the letter A. I do not continue on the other side. I'm going to do the same thing with this corner. I line my ruler up so it's touching the vanishing point in the corner. I stop when I hit the letter A. Over here for this corner, I'm going to stop when I hit the R. Okay, this corner right here, I stop when I hit the R. I do not continue on the other side. So basically, when you're connecting a corner to the vanishing point, if you hit another letter or you hit something, any pencil line, you stop and do not continue that line. I'm doing this corner now. Next, I'm doing this corner. And I stop when I hit the T. Now this corner, right there. And next I'm going to connect the outermost point of this curved part of the R without making my ruler go through the R. This is just like the circle on the last worksheet that we did. So we line up with the vanishing point, and about there is where this would hit. If I go any further in and I drew a line, it would go through the R. And I stop when I hit the T. Okay, and it just happens to hit a corner. That's just a coincidence. Now I need to connect this corner, this corner, this corner, and this corner. Here are some areas that I have not connected. I did not connect this point because that would cause me to draw through the R. I did not connect this point, that would cause me to draw through the A. Okay, so I have now connected every corner necessary to the vanishing point. Before I go any further, I'm going to erase these guidelines that I started with. The reason that we started with those guidelines is so that we would be able to make our letters line up so that the top of each letter is at exactly the same height and the bottoms of each letter are exactly at the same height. So now I don't need those guidelines. In fact, I could have erased these guidelines before I started connecting corners. Now when I erased that guideline, I accidentally erased a little bit of my T and my converging line, so I'm just putting that back on. And I'm going to darken up the two lines for the bottom of my letter A. Okay, so now my next step is to make the backs of my letters. I'm going to show you that in a separate video. I want you to do this step first. Make sure, so after you watch this video, this is what you'll do. Make sure that you've connected every corner you need to connect, and then you will watch the second video that will show you the next step.